What's going on, guys? Welcome to Cruising with Kevin. It's Tuesday and normally I do a little video of kind of some places I've explored, but I've actually been home a bunch because I went to the duct tape drags and all this other kind of stuff. So what I want to show you guys today is a little project that we had done, and I actually waited on purpose to show you this. It's a little dry pour concrete video there. We actually did it a couple months ago, but we just kind of started it. We've got so many things going on, but I'll kind of show you what we did here. It's over my shoulder there. We'll talk about it a little bit, and then yeah, so let's get to it. Something to think about here if you're loading these and you see if you use this type of dolly and it's level with your trailer or the back of your truck, it's a lot easier. You unload it off the pallets. You can unload it off the pallets and you don't have to like lift it to the bottom like on the lower ones and then lift it back off the bottom up here. So I was talking about that earlier, like every time you lift one of these things, if you end up lifting 100 or 200 of these bags, you're going to be pretty tired out. So I'm gonna get back at work. Okay guys, so we're getting ready to cut some forms here. We want to make sure that we get this all the right size for this, so we're just gonna quickly cut these forms and get at it here. All right, ready? All right, so the problem we're having is the saw blade isn't big enough to cut this 2x6 on an angle, and it's just wood we have laying around, so that's what we're using. So we're just gonna do it like this, I guess. You could have flipped it and cut it the other way too. All right, on to the next step here. Okay, so we're going to try to screw these framing boards together here and start bringing our concrete in, I guess. All right. So the reason we did the angle is because we don't have long enough screws, and they didn't have any longer screws at the hardware store, so we're using what we got here. So if you cut the angle, you don't have to go through as deep. And so you guys know if you lay it on its side, it's exactly 1.5 inches thick, even though they call it a 2x4. By the time they plane it down and everything, it's 1.5 inches thick. So something to think about there. We went a little bit farther and we didn't realize that we have a little excess here between our walls. So just throwing a piece on there to fill in that space.
I know exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't decided to tell you guys to take advice from us until after we actually finish and see what it looks like. We're purposely doing a small area before we get going in the big stuff, because the first area is where you always make mistakes. So, and it's extremely hot today.
We have to spray paint that so we can dig out the hole.
Okay, is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
I don't think that we should, because I think this is going to be like, you can see here, right?
Okay, whatever you say.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what.
I know, but I think eventually we're going to continue. So I have a different plan about it. So what she's talking about here is, if you watch the Cajun Country Living videos, they dig down the foot of it so that the water doesn't wash underneath it and erode the bottom of the concrete. But what the plan is here is to eventually continue on. So like eventually when you get to the last slab, you'd want to bury that so that it's flush with the ground, right? And so you would do that by taking some material out. And so that would be the only way to do that here, would be to scrape it down the 1.5 inches and then get it flush with the ground. But it's already low here, so that wouldn't really be the best solution for us, in my opinion. So I'm going to try something a little different here, but that's the plan. Oh, I see. That's what she was doing. Okay, I didn't see that part of it. We just watched the Cajun Country Living. I watched it a bunch before I was ready to do this, but that was months ago, and we're just winging it here today. Okay, I'm gonna grab some gloves and I'm gonna pack that in there. Ooh, that is burning my hands.
I guess I'm just gonna take some of this out.
All right, I'm just grabbing some gloves so I can pack some of this stuff in there. And here are amazing children there. What I'm trying to do is, there's a hump away from the house, like it's already kind of higher at the house. It dipped down, and then right where I'm standing here, there's kind of a low spot. So I'm trying to keep it so it doesn't go any farther if it does get underneath the concrete. It's not going to hurt anything over there. Okay. No.
So we need
So the one thing about it is I grabbed gloves too, because I mean, most of these people aren't wearing gloves or respirators or anything. We're going to take it easy opening them. We'll probably just cut it open right there and make sure it's cut wide open so we're not like dumping in whatever. So I don't know if I'll wear a mask, but we'll cut one open and see. But you should probably wear a mask and definitely wear gloves because you don't want to get that on you. So before I start that, I'm going to go actually. I'll just wipe my face once here. My eyes are burning from my sweat, so we'll get cooled off once and then we'll get going pouring them in there. All right, so we're going to start setting them in here. I'm going to start cutting the bags. My wife's got a better back than me, apparently. She likes to tell me every day, all the time. We got 60 pounders because we're only doing a little at a time here, so this would be a... Dude, there's like one little sliver of sun in the whole yard right now, and it's right where we're working. What are the chances of that? That's really annoying. But anyways, so what I was talking about earlier is when you're cutting these bags open, you cut them wide open right here. If you cut them, and you just make sure they're really cut. Maybe. How's this thing open? Oh, there we go. All right. So a lot of people just do this and then they'll try to tip it, right? And if you actually get it fully cut everywhere, then you won't have to fight it to get it out of the bag. You know? It's pretty dusty, but... I'll just bring the garbage can over here. I can just put them straight into the can. Whew, I think I'm going to get a...
right inside there.
I'm going to grab a dust mask. I don't really want this going in my lungs. Okay. Let's try this again. Said I don't want to be sucking in a bunch of dust. If it's a windy day and it'll kind of blow away from where you're working or something like that, that would probably be okay. But I already have things like a bad back, so don't really want to have bad lungs as well. Yeah. So, whew. The problem here is that because we're against that wall, normally you would take it and you'd have a place to set the screed board and you have space to work it. But this first section doesn't have that. That's why we didn't do a big section too, because we want to be able to just basically like level it by hand. So this one's going to be the hardest one to do because we're kind of just winging it for that. Okay, so you can see we're getting full here. One of the biggest mistakes people seem to make in these videos is that they're always like putting not enough, and then they're saying that they can't get a smooth top. It's because they haven't filled it enough. So again, this is going to be probably the roughest area because this is going to be the hardest one to try to screed in here, but we'll see what we can do to figure something out here. But we'll put one more bag in there because it's still low, and just wherever there. You guys see the way I did it there, and I just cut the end of it? have to physically pick up the bag every time, so that means you're doing twice as much work. It's like, dude, we're like in the one tiny little spot with Sutton. What are the chances of that? Deceiving, hey? That's what happens to people all the time. They're like, we can't get it smooth because the screed board isn't touching, and they're like, it makes it like super rocky on the top. Well, if the screed board doesn't touch, it won't work. So we're talking about we don't have an edge to screed board on, so when you're trying to screed, it's like working the far end down because it's not, it doesn't have something to sit on. I think we have enough mix in there though, right? So you can see the areas here. If you look at like these areas, when you screed it, those rocks aren't getting pushed down because it's not even touching. So that means there's not enough material in there. So might have to add another little bit here to get it. We're just going to hand trowel it because we don't have a way to screed board it properly, but this is just a gauge where we're at. Okay, so we're just trying to get this leveled off. We don't want to have to pull out like a whole nother bag because we're so close here, but you can see when there's lots of rocks, that means it's not touching or it's barely touching. So you can see if you screed it good, you take a look at that pretty close there. When you screed it, there's hardly any rocks at the surface, so that means that it's getting done right.
Way better than that area. Move this up to the street.
Oh.
I do that.
Honestly, if I had a driveway and it was as smooth as this even, I would be totally fine with that. Yeah, it stops it from cracking too. Like it helps so it doesn't have that weird abrasive edge. It's hard to like get these rocks in here. It's because of how we're trying to do it. It's just this one's not going to be perfect no matter what we do here, but No, I'm saying they were talking about it like a couple of years ago that it was already made it to Canada and the States. Well, only the states that are kind of stupid will probably fall into that, I guess. Yeah. Nobody tells us what to do here. Let's see how this deal works here. Looks smoother with the trowel than it does with the...
What?
I said it looks smoother with the trowel than it does with the...
I think it should have been a foam roller, but
I don't know.
that's the only one I have.
This is what they use. I guess it gives it a little bit of a, like it rolls out the bumps, but it gives it a little bit of like texture, so it's not like slippery smooth. Not bad, not bad.
Walk-on?
Walk-ons need to sponsor us. This video is brought to you by Walk-ons Flyway something beer.
That's the beer company.
Yeah, or Walk-ons, or both. We're not prejudiced. Yeah, I suppose you could do this with a trowel just like we did and it would end up being smooth. As long as you've got it like screeded good enough.
I'm trying here, sorry.
That's okay. Not too bad. Like I said, this first section is not going to be perfect anyways, but it will be better than mud. Alright guys, I've been out here watering this thing. Main thing is just to make sure it doesn't dry out, so this is going to be probably the last watering, and then we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. You can see there's some rocks sticking out because we didn't do this one perfect. The rest of it will do a lot better, so we'll try to do it a lot better anyway. So I'm going to give it a soak down. It's hard enough now, you can just like literally just soak it like this. After the second watering, it should be hard enough to do that. We started getting some crazy winds earlier. It seemed like there was going to be a storm rolling in, so there was a little bit of leaves and stuff in it. I just pulled those off because it had already hardened up enough, but you can see like look how much water is actually getting holding on there, so it'll absorb what it absorbs, and that's it. We'll check on it tomorrow and it should be good. All right guys, so you can see the first section of our trowel run here for our dry concrete pour. Turned out not too bad. Like I said, we knew that this kind of stuff, we could have put a little more effort in to get that perfect, but it was smoking hot yesterday, and this is just the first little corner piece, so not too big of a deal. And it's just gonna be a sidewalk basically. You can see here what's happening is it's sloped towards the house, and so we're trying to keep it away from basically all the stuff coming off the roof. We're gonna need an eave there too, but just one problem at a time here we're dealing with. So and then I'll probably do it around the AC there. I wish we would have done that to begin with. I wasn't thinking, and then I didn't realize how much dirt was going to get kicked up from every time it rained here, so might just pour some around that in the future. But yeah, now we just need to continue on here. You can see like everything's pretty good. It just, you can see where it came off the roof last night. We had a massive downpour, And this was not very long after this was poured, so considering that, not too bad. And it'll start to dry out a little bit and settle up a little bit better as it goes here, but yeah, so that's where we're at with that. So I think overall, for just being the first little play area there, like I said, you can, looks not too bad. It seems to be fairly hard through the edges and stuff there, so should be all right, I think. So now we just got to continue on here. So as we have time, I guess we'll keep doing that. What's going on, guys? We're at day 2 of trying to do the continuation of this. We didn't start till later in the day. It doesn't take that long to do it. It's honestly just getting the concrete and laying it down. So we're doing about a 12-foot by another 5-foot section here this time. That's about as long as you can go, I think. We'll see how it screeds. It might even be a bit too long, but we'll give it a shot here anyways. Hopefully one more after this. I guess it's probably more like 2 where we are at here, but we're gonna try that, and then hopefully we can get this part done today, and that'll at least clean up right in front of our door so we're not tracking so much mud in every time it rains. So it came down pretty hardcore last night and it didn't damage the other stuff, surprisingly, so that's good to know. So all right, let's get at it. I say we go one full pass out to here, and then we'll see what it looks like, and then we can backfill it better. Yeah, definitely isn't really got the room. So you can see what she's talking about. Like yesterday, because we were in the corner there, we didn't have room to actually move the board. So we just kind of hand troweled it. That's why it doesn't look as good. But now that we can actually move this screed board and actually saw it, as long as you've got enough fill in there that it's sawing that down, you should have a smooth top. So something to think about. So I'll show you guys just from screeding it how much better it already got. So you guys can see the little bit that we screeded. As long as you have enough there that it rubs and it's not like an indentation, then you know you've got enough. So you could see where we filled in, that's where it was low. So we only went that far, and then we're gonna go back and screed it one more time. And if you do the sawing motion, you can see this stuff is like powder there. And where it's rock, that's where it was low. So should be no problem to get it pretty decent once it's done here. So we'll keep going at this. Sorry, that was my fault. Go back.
Hold on. You have to re-screed it now.
Let's go your way more, because I got lots of room.
Well, we gotta start at the beginning again. Sorry. Hold on. Got it?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So, you only ate 8 more bags.
Oh man.
I guess we're running back to Home Depot.
Unless I look at, I'll have to check my calculator again, unless I looked at 80-pound bag, but I don't think so. It's probably gonna be short though. All right, guys, so end of day 2 here. We're just wrapping up the rest of this. You can see I rolled to the right-hand side of it here. We're gonna finish edging off the left. The one thing we're kind of running into is it's kind of going uphill, so that pad that we poured yesterday, it's like a tiny bit higher, and you can see it's not totally cleaning this lip out, but it's good enough for who it's for anyway. So once we roll it smooth here, it should be pretty good. We just cleaned off the edge a little bit like she's doing there so that we can get that little hump out of there. It's I guess if you had a shorter screed board, maybe that would help, but I think it was just because we spun the board around and it didn't change really anything. So, but yeah, for a sidewalk, it should be good. This is what I did yesterday, right?
You did the mist. Yep.
All right, guys, so kind of what we said yesterday, you don't want to stand above it because you can see how it's dripping. If it drips in it, it'll leave those little drip imperfections. So we're just gonna go lightly here. I usually start it, so I'll start it over here to make sure it's not spraying crazy or something weird like the handle broke or whatever, like happened yesterday. That happened before we started spraying, but and then we'll just go lightly and we just mist it once the first coat, just enough to get it wet. We come back between 30 minutes and half an hour, between 30 minutes and an hour, depending on how thick the concrete is, kind of. Like I said, we're probably inch to inch and a half range here. I guess we should probably, it's probably more like inch and a half to 2 inches because of the depth, sorry. Because a tipped over 2x6 like this is inch and a half, so we'll give it a shot here. Oh,
What are you doing?
we're using a flexible hose and it's kinking on me. You just want to get it enough that it just looks wet, basically. You want to go crazy. Just barely. Got to get those edges wet a little bit there, and ooh, the hose keeps kinking and it's messing up here. So if you kind of look here, kind of take a closer look where all these, where all of this rock is on the edge. And so we're realizing here, and this is how you learn, right? Where we went yesterday, we had no way to screed in here. So when we were hand troweling this or whatever, you can see now just even visibly, it's higher here. And so when you got the screed board here, it's higher than it is for here. So there's a couple ways maybe we could have dealt with that. I suppose we didn't realize it till the very end, but we could have probably propped it up and put some dirt underneath there just to get this a little bit higher. Or I don't know, maybe somebody has some advice for these corners. Like, we just did this as a starter section, so because what I was saying was you can't screed into the corner here because you got the wall here and the wall there. So that's why we did this tiny little patch first yesterday. So we're gonna let it set in here for half an hour and come back. But like I said, it's not a big deal. It's just for us, this is just a sidewalk, and you can see there's a little bit of rock there. And the reason that rock shows out like that is because it didn't get screeded very good. And that's because here, it's so much higher than here. So we could have maybe put a little more fill in there too, I suppose, or something. But again, it's just a little concrete pad for us, just so it's not walking in the mud coming in or whatever. So we're gonna let this dry, and then I'll come back out and continue soaking it, and by tomorrow I should be able to walk on it. So okay, so you guys can see here over my shoulder, this is the 2-month update of this video, so you can see what we did. So I actually have plans to do more of it down. I just honestly haven't been home. The times that I have been home, I've either been busy with doing my car stuff, or else it's been so hot. It's so hard to, I mean, when it's like 100 degrees, or maybe not quite that, but like high 90s, whatever, and it's humid outside, it's just not the time to be doing that kind of stuff. So it's starting to get into a little cooler weather, so we'll start working on these outside projects again, which is pretty cool. But I think so. I've done some different points here, and I'm going to show you that right now to show you exactly what we did, what we would do probably different, and what we're going to try on the next section, just so we can give everybody an idea of how this all works. And I'm going to give you guys another update after we do the next section. We also have a big patch in the back, our entire patio, we have a huge deck in the back, and it's also fully concrete, but it's sagged out over the years. So the next plan that we have is to basically level that and get it so that the water runs away. It's actually, I'll show you guys that so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here, but let's talk about this first. Okay, so you guys can see, so this has been exactly 2 months since we did this. And the reason we did this was it was just nonstop mud in front of our door. We had mats out here and everything. And so if you kind of look over our shoulder here, it's hard to tell in the video here, but it's a massive downhill grade all the way to our house. We actually want to back there, I guess, we want to actually do all that with just a thin concrete pour as well. So probably about the same thickness as this. So you can see we still have the forms out here. We just pulled them off. It's basically just a 2x4. Well, it's 2x6 in this case, but 2x4 laid on its side, and that's how thick it's going to be. So you can kind of see here where we first started. So let's look at this a little bit better. Okay, so I never cleaned this up a whole bunch. I just wanted to kind of show you guys exactly how it's been. Like I said, we got all these leaves and everything coming in. So you can see the first part here. So this is the very first part that we did. And we basically just hand troweled this out. And so we couldn't screed it because it's in the corner. And maybe somebody has an idea for this. If you do, hit me up in the comments there. But so that was, we knew this part was going to be the least perfect. And the only thing that I would say was to try to make sure you get a level in there and make sure it's like draining out. So you can see there's that crack between the two where they connect, which is what we wanted, which is totally fine. But yeah, it drains away the water. I mean, we've got no eaves on the house, so you can see this thing's been, I mean, we've been pounded with a bunch of rain since. There's nothing worn. I mean, it's not like it's been wrecking the concrete or anything like that. So that's kind of that. So then moving on to the next part, you can see, if you look really super close, kind of get a little better close up here, it's got a little texture to it. And we knew that was going to happen because we went like a really long run of board, actually this entire length here, which is what that is. I forget off the top of my head, but I think it's just over 12 feet. So if I'm being totally honest, that's probably twice as far as you should go in a run. Maybe not twice, but maybe like an 8-foot. If you did an 8-foot screed board there, that would probably be a better solution for that, because you're starting to see these little ripples in the concrete, which again, because this is just a walkway, we didn't care about that. We could have fixed that, and we did know that was sort of going to happen, but if you just kind of look, it just adds a little bit of texture. And then, yeah, we don't have an edge or anything on it. So again, I'm not trying to hide anything here. I'm just kind of showing you guys. So that's kind of like the edge. I don't know, like you can see, if you look straight at it here, it basically has like a little hump going up, and that's because we were short on concrete there apparently. So just little things. We're not trying to say we're perfect at this, and that's why we started it here. So I wanted to make sure that when we did this would be kind of like our test area, because it wasn't going to affect anything. We actually would have went wider here, but we're going to get some new power put in, and the power has to go from over there, and we're going to probably dig it around here, go through here, and then into our main box, which is over there on the other side of the wall. So we didn't want to pour any more concrete here and have to worry about it getting wrecked. So the next spot here is where we're going to go to the corner of the house. And so what we're planning on doing here is we're planning on doing the same idea, except the last, probably, I think we're thinking like the last third of it, we're going to do mortar, however it's pronounced there, and just try to do it the same idea, but it's supposed to make a smoother top. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be as durable. I feel like this is going to last a really, really long time. Again, foot traffic only. So we know for sure that, obviously, I mean, we get a little bit of cold weather in our area, but probably not enough to matter. So if I was going to do this in like Canada or something, again, foot traffic, I don't know if I would go any thicker. I might put some mesh in it or something like that, but probably, I mean, maybe it would just go a bit thicker. So like I said, that's kind of what I think I would probably do if I was going to be in a cold climate where it freezes, you know, fairly, like for a fairly long period of time in the northern states or Canada or something like that. I probably would go a little bit thicker and put some wire mesh in it. And I do think this has limitations. Like, you know, there's people who have done driveways with it, which I think is probably fine with the right thickness, you know, but let's say if you were gonna like do a garage pad and you plan to put like a hoist in there, I don't think it has the same structure as that. So maybe if you were going to do that, you'd look at some different angles of that kind of stuff. But yeah, like I said, I mean, that's been 2 months already. I've had a bunch of rain. It's been beating off the roof there. So like I said, no eaves. So I'm going to show you the back, and I'm going to show you what our plan is eventually there. A lot of it just boils down to time. And even though this is quite a bit cheaper, we have a lot of other expensive things going on in our house that we're kind of focusing on first. Our kitchen is about 3/4 done now. We've had to redo everything in this house. So it's basically had new appliances, I mean everything. It's had new flooring, windows. You can see I put a used garage door on because it was falling off. But the doors and windows and everything are new. We do actually need to put siding on the house, so we'll be doing that in the future. But I want to show this kind of more on my channel. I try to base it more around automotive type stuff, but to me this is something that's kind of cool because maybe you could use it, for a driveway, or you could use it in front of your shop for a pad or something like that, or parking pad on the side. A guy that doesn't want to do the concrete mixing and things like that. Again, this isn't advice, but it's just kind of what I'm talking about. So let me show you our deck here. Okay, so where I'm standing here, there was nothing here when we moved in. And so we've actually got, if you look over my shoulder here, we've got 3 patio doors here, or whatever they're called, basically to go to a deck. But if you look behind me, I'm standing about 5 feet above the ground level. So this concrete deck here was original to the house. And so originally, you can see where this tree is here, we started hitting with a sledgehammer, thinking I was gonna come in here and just knock all this concrete out and then build a wooden deck. And so the deck that I'm standing on here, we bought a bunch of lumber. We do everything like on a super budget, and it was just kind of a fluke that we found it. But we found a whole bunch of this wood at an auction. I think we paid like $200, and I mean, we did a ton of stuff with it. We built planters, we built this deck, whatever. So we actually had enough to build a bigger deck at the time, but we left it out too long, and then ants got into it and ended up kind of chewing it up or whatever, because we just didn't get to it in time. So that was kind of our mistake. But you can see behind me here, you take a look. So we built this deck. I'll kind of show you this. Excuse our yard here, it's kind of a mess a little bit right now, but you can see when we built this deck, we built it to be just a little bit above to match the concrete there, because we knew we were going to have to go up with that concrete. We weren't exactly sure how much. Realistically, it's probably like 3 inches, 4 inches, something like that, kind of depending. It's deceiving to look at, but so we got a little gap here. Not sure how we're going to deal with this, but like all this stuff that you see here, this was already wrecked. So the only thing that we touched was right here, and then we realized how thick this concrete was. So then we're like, man, this is going to be a massive job to get that out of there. And I started thinking, like, once we did this dry concrete here, I was like, well, why couldn't we just continue that on and just put another lift over top of this deck? Like, it seems to me like it's dirt underneath here. So if we were just to put another lift here, which is kind of what we're thinking, or at least what I'm thinking, I'm not saying this is right, but just do a dry pour concrete lift here. And again, let me see if I can show you this perception here a little bit. But you can see, I would say it's probably at least probably settled. Yeah, it's probably a good 4 inches down at this end versus that end. And you can see it going uphill there. So that kind of gives you an idea what we're dealing with. So when it pours rain, all the water runs back into here, and there's like huge cracks here. It's actually cracked over here. I'm not saying this is even the right thing to do really, but it's just kind of what I'm thinking, because I mean, this would be thousands and thousands of dollars to knock this out of here. And I'm like, well, at that point, why don't I just put a lift of concrete in here? And actually that would make it better anyways, because again, you can see we went a little bit higher with that deck. So if we would just basically leveled it to that deck, and don't get me wrong, this isn't going to be cheap either. This is a pretty big deck still. So the problem is, if you were to put like wood over top of this and just try to build like, say, a deck to level it off with the other one, you might have issues with water pooling underneath there, because when it starts to rain and there's like leaves in it, it does plug up and there's no place for the water to go. So, and I don't know, like, It doesn't seem like it's totally hollow under there, but I suspect what's happened is it's hollow from basically washing out underneath there. So that's kind of the plan for that. So we wanted to try it on the first part there in the front, just to kind of see how that was going to hold up. We did, you can see a fairly small area. It was super affordable, really. I mean, it's not, you know, the concrete's $5 a bag. I will say we underestimated when we did that pour, I think because there was kind of a dip in it a little bit. And so I don't remember off the top of my head. I think we estimated 12 bags and we really needed 16 or something like that. So, and even that was like a little shy. So you almost need to go, if you were doing a big area, then you could really be off, you know, if it was not perfectly leveled. I think the calculators are accurate, but I think like I said, if there's any little ripples or dips or whatever that you didn't account for, that could be an issue with measuring. So that, yeah, like I said, that's kind of what we're planning on here, and I'll keep you guys updated when we do that. Once we get our electrical in, we're going to start pouring driveways like this and everything. So I said I have no problem with doing it like wet pour, but I think for what we're doing and whatever, and sometimes I just like to see how things work. Like when people say this isn't going to work, and then they don't have an answer of why it's not going to work, and people are doing it or people haven't done it, and I want to see, that makes me curious about it. So that's kind of our plan anyway. So I would like to do a little bit more in front of the garage. We actually got a lot surveyed, but they haven't totally finished yet. So, but at least we know where our corner pins are now. So that's good. We actually have a lot of land here, a lot, not more than I was thinking, but more than other people were implying that we might possibly have. So, you know, sometimes it's hard to tell. We have just another couple acres here. So yeah, pretty happy with that. But we need a lot of fill in here, and that's a whole nother thing in itself. But you can see, this is hopefully going to help this situation here. The only downside to this particular problem here is that you can see it's got the overhang coming off, and because it's so close to the roof, adding another 4 inches to that is going to make it like a pretty low roof at the far end here on this side. So what we're thinking is next year we might have the pool over here or something like that, but we never know. We're just kind of winging it as we go there. So appreciate you guys watching again. That's kind of like my opinion on it. I think it works in a lot of situations. I would like to do some other little projects with here. I don't want to commit to anything until I know for sure, but if that comes up, we'll show you guys that too. But if you guys are considering doing a little dry pour concrete for, like I said, foot traffic or whatever, we can see that seems to work in for sure this, you know, the climates that are kind of the warmer climates and the not freezing. So I don't know longevity, if it'll last 20 years or, you know, 2 years or a year before it, you know, has issues. But I mean, it's a pretty affordable thing to try to do it yourself, and you don't need any special tools. So the only thing I would suggest is like we did do that, because concrete is pretty hard on your lungs and everything, is to wear dust masks. And that's another reason why we weren't doing it while it was hot outside. So that's something to think about. Some people don't say that it's not a big deal, don't worry about it or whatever, do it on a windy day when it's blowing away from you, but I recommend you still do that. So thanks for watching again, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, share me around on social media. It's Cruising with Kevin on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook.